guys, welcome back to World of Tanks. My name is Bruce and today I want to present the T28, the Tier 8 American turretless tank destroyer. If you're interested in more reviews and gameplay, go to YouTube and search for World of Tanks with Bruce to get all of my videos, or click on the subscribe button. In addition to this, you can now also support me on Patreon, so feel free to follow this link and become a patron. And now, let's go. So the T28 is a turretless, heavily armored tank destroyer of the American tech tree. And as you can see, my crew is relatively unexperienced. It does have brothers in arms, however, actually it does not, because the commander is still working on it. And then as soon as possible, you should, in my opinion, work on repairs, the repair skill, because as soon as you get tracked, the game is pretty much over for you. This is why I am currently training on repairs, and then this is also why I use the modified configuration class 1, because it reduces my repair time, so it actually increases the repair speed of the tracks. And alongside with the directive, I get even an increased repair speed. So if someone tracks me, I actually do not have to use my repair kit for the most part, because my tracks are repaired relatively quickly. Now, because of the fact that the tank is heavily armored and it does actually not catch fire very often, I do not play it with a fire extinguisher. Instead, I'm using a second large repair kit. So in case somebody tracks me and in case somebody retracks me, I can still be mobile, because I can use a second repair kit and still keep fighting. Now, besides this, I'm playing the tank with the turbocharger because I think it is very important to, let's say, decrease the biggest deficiency of this tank, which is its mobility. And I'm playing this tank with a gun rammer in order to further increase the firepower. And as you can see, we managed to get 3100 DPM on this tank, which is perfect, and it will even be further increased once we get Brothers in Arms completed. Before we start with some gameplay, let us quickly talk about the armor profile of this tank. So we are now comparing this tank to the penetration value of the Centurion 1 with its standard ammunition, so 226 millimeters of penetration, which is pretty standard nowadays for Tier 8. So as you can see, the frontal armor is actually pretty strong, and the Centurion is unable to actually penetrate us, maybe with the 20 or let's say 30% chance the lower hull, plus of course the cupola on top, which is actually not too great, not too big, so the chances of penetrating us is not too high. Now, this obviously changes a bit if the Centurion changes towards premium ammunition, and with its 258 millimeters of penetration, he actually has a, let's say, 50% chance of actually penetrating our frontal armor. Now, if you compare this tank to a lower tier tank, so let's take the Firefly, which is a tier 6 tank, but however, keep in mind with the tier 7 gun, so 171 millimeters penetration with the standard ammunition, you can see he has no chance whatsoever of penetrating us. Maybe this little spot here on the cupola, but besides that, no chance. Now, even if he, yeah, this was actually the regular ammunition. So now if the tank would switch to the premium ammunition, which has 239 millimeters of penetration, you can see actually not too much which is changing. So if you are playing against lower tiers, you can and you have to play aggressively. Now, if we compare this tank to the penetration value of the Leopard 1, so the tier 10 tank with its 278 millimeters of standard penetration, you can actually see that your armor is becoming pretty much useless. So the Leopard 1 can penetrate us more or less every time right here in the frontal portion of our tank. And if he even switches to its premium ammunition, it is basically the same. So what I want to tell you is you have to analyze the situation and see whether you are playing as a top tier tank or in a tier 8 matchup, or if you are a low tier tank and you have to adjust your gameplay accordingly. Alright, here we are in the first match. We are spawning on Himmelsdorf in the north, and as usual, let's take a look at the map. spawning on Himmelsdorf with the tank destroyer, which is heavily armored, you have several options. First of all, you can go here. However, you should only support your heavies here if your armor is sufficient. If this is not the case, then you can go on top of the hill. However, keep in mind that the way is very long and will take quite some time until you arrive on the hill, so you will be out of the game for a long period of time. Or you can go here and just play defensively and see how the game is developing. So in this case, as we're spawning in a tier 9 matchup, and remember what I said about the armor profiles, so we actually cannot rely on our armor against the Leopard PDA, against the E50, the Centurion, the AMX, the ST1 and also the Object 777. Plus, if all the tier 8 tanks spend premium ammunition, they can also be able to penetrate our hull. So this is why I do not want to go to the center here and support my heavy tanks, but instead I want to go to this position. As I said, we might just be a little bit passive at the beginning, but that is alright. And I want to go to this position instead of going to the hill, because I do want to be part of the game and not be out of the game for, let's say, 2 minutes. Alright, so we will just wait here and see whether we can get a shot maybe on the Scorpion, but I think the Scorpion is hiding. So let's take a look at the weaponry of this tank. So the DPM of the tank is actually pretty decent, 2750 base DPM, alongside with 400 alpha damage and a nice penetration of 248, and you can bump the penetration up to 279 with your premium ammunition. Now the gun is actually pretty, let's say it's not too inaccurate with 0.36 dispersion. And the aim time is actually also fine, approximately 2 seconds. So yeah. Now the shell velocity is actually not too great, only 945, but all in all the gun is actually pretty strong, pretty good, and one of the benefits of this tank. So with such an heavily armored tank destroyer, I think I can just sit here and wait until you go. Okay, fortunately we do not hit him. Now obviously as soon as I'm shot I want to move backwards, because I still have some weak spots as I showed you, and so I would certainly not want to expose my weak spots. Now as you can see, the enemy team managed to win this part of the hill, so this part of the map, so we will eventually have to turn around and see how we can defend the game. So taking a look at the mobility of the tank, only 22 kph top speed, which is relatively slow. This is why I highly recommend to play it with a turbocharger. 10 reverse speed and port weight ratio of 13.01 with 780 horsepower, making this tank actually very slow. But this is kind of the trade-off of your heavy armor. Yeah, that's just how it is, and you have to cope with this low speed and have to incorporate this into your gameplay. Besides this, 20 degrees of gun elevation is actually great, however only 5 degrees of gun depression, so you are also not in the most flexible tanks. So let's see. Here we go. So what I just did was, let's pause here. So I was moving exactly like this into a 90 degrees angle, and I did that on purpose because as you can see, the maximum spotting range circle goes up until here, and so I want to make sure that I will not move here so that all those tanks that are sitting here can spot me, but instead I want to move like this, being behind this cover, so that I can only be spotted from tanks which are maybe sitting here. And so as you saw, I did not get spotted, which is good. Now in my opinion, it is now time to make pressure, because after all, we still want to win the game. And here we go. I think I will look premium ammunition for the E50, and I think it is now time to actually push the E50. He has only 557 points remaining, and so it is time to push him now. See how I drive around the corner. to reduce the chance of being tracked. Now it is just time to push him out, and we will just take a shot in his lower hull, or maybe in his tracks. Okay, so nice. The E50 is taken out, and now it is time to keep pushing out our other tanks. Now I think the tanks behind me will be able to handle the AMX-30, and so we will just concentrate on moving forward. Here you go. We will do the same with the SD1. He is also now being reduced to 415 hit points, which is good. We still have all of our 1500 hit points. And here you go. So we can simply be aggressive. Okay, there's the Ferdinand, so we have to move backwards so that we cannot be taken under fire from the Ferdinand. And now, sweet. Now we could take him out. And this is actually a good example of the strength of this tank, because the firepower is actually pretty decent, and it is the thing that you should incorporate into your gameplay. So don't just sit in the back, but make an aggressive gameplay as soon as the condition permits or the situation allows. If you want to know more about how to play heavily armored tank destroyers, then watch my tutorial, which is linked right here. And in this I offer 10 golden tips on how to play heavily armored tank destroyer, which might help you out if you are a little bit unexperienced. Okay, so I think we could bring us back into the game with our 3 kills. And now, okay, fortunately the Leopard PDA is moving behind cover. So once again, as you can see, I am moving the long way around the corner. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to peek out with only the frontal portion of my tracks, so that it is, let's say, more difficult for the opponents to track me. This is how I move around the corners. And now, okay, I think I should not wait too long for the EBR-90. Instead, I will just chase the Leopard PTA, and we can take him out. No. And really go, but is now, and now we should turn around, because I think the EBR will sooner or later come around the corner. So yeah, we could actually turn around the game and bring us back into the game. And let's see. Oh, he is, but he has no chance of penetrating us, which is good. And unfortunately, he is too fast. So okay, I think our job is now not to chase the EBR, because that will not be successful. But instead, you know what? We will try to help the AMX AC-48, and I'm telling him, hey, dude, I will help you. So I will just try to push out the T28 and the Su-130 PM, because I still have 973 hit points to go, and now it is definitely time to play aggressively in this tank. Okay, so looks like the TLP, or the TL1 LEC, is chasing the EBR. However, this tank is too slow. As you can see, the EBR is in this position already, and so he has no chance. So he should actually close to our position.
Support my position.
This is what I'm telling him right now, and here you go. Thank you, thanks a lot. Now I'm waggling around in order to make it difficult for the Su-130 PM to hit me, and here you go. That was a lucky shot. Now I'm once again waggling around so that he has a hard time of hitting my let's say my weak spots on my armor, and so I can take him out. And now here we go, we bounce a shot. So the armor profile of the tank is actually pretty good, and the only thing that you have to keep in mind is you have to make an assessment at the beginning of the game. So at the beginning of the game, whether you can play aggressively or whether you have to play a little bit more passively at the beginning of the game. And the key to success in such a tank is to play aggressively as soon as conditions permit. And now let's jump into the next game. Okay, second game, and this time we are once again spawning in a tier 9 matchup on Abbey. And as usual, let's take a look at the map. Spawning on Abbey in the south, the situation usually looks like this, and with the tank destroyer, you actually have two options. You can go to the right flank and go here, maybe aggressively towards here. However, keep in mind that you can be taken under fire from this position. So if the red team wins this position, they can shoot you in the back and you will lose your hit points. Besides that, and until this, you can play aggressively depending on the strength of your armor. Or with the other option with your heavily armored tank destroyer is to go here, and I actually like to support this part of the map because in my opinion this portion here is more important compared to this side, because from this side, either from here or from here, you have more control over the cap circle than from this side. So this is why I think that winning this flank is more important compared to the other side. Alright, so this is why we will go to the 1 and 2 lane and try to support our tanks. So in my opinion this makes more sense than fighting on the 8 and 9 lane, and it looks like we get quite some support. So our heavy tanks are moving towards the same flank. Same is the T28. And as you can see, the speed is actually very slow, but keep in mind I'm using the turbocharger, so I would be even slower without the turbocharger. And so if we take a look at the rest of the stats, you can see the hull armor is actually pretty strong, 254, and we talked about it. So for tier 8 it is pretty strong. Obviously on tier 7 and tier 6 it is godlike, and we will have a I will have an example of this in the next game. Hit points wise, 1500 hit points is actually pretty strong. Another big benefit of this tank. Then view range 370 is on the okay side, I would say. Ammo is actually also not too bad due to the fact that the tank is not too high. And yeah, so overall you get a very slow tank with the pretty decent firepower, with good armor depending on the game or on the situation in the game. And yeah, so that's the T28. Now I want to make pressure right from the get-go and move towards the position right here in order to make pressure. Now playing against the T30, a tank which I can easily penetrate, at least on his hull. But I think depending on the position here, he will not be able to easily penetrate me, at least. Well, actually he will, because he has the tier 9 tank destroyer gun. Okay, unfortunately, he is actually using the rank of the tank pretty effectively. However, he can be taken under fire by our friends or comrades, which is good. Fortunately, he bounces. And let's see. Maybe. No. Okay. Alright, so I think I will have to wait until our team manages to take on T30, and then I will be able to make pressure towards the WZ 120. Let's see. Looks like our team is under pressure, which is fine. We've won the right flank, so that is good, and we also won the middle. So looking at the minimap, the situation is we have to just hold this flank, because eventually those tanks will all advance and will win the game for us. So we just have to make sure that we can hold the flank. So this is what we have to do. And now, as the T30 is dead, I will here go. Our tank is making pressure, so we will support him. And nice. And now, as you can see, the tank is flanking me, so I want to make sure that he has. Okay, now the Progetto is moving towards me. Okay, now if you've decided to turn around, then stick to your decision, because it's not under pressure, because you need to do something. Okay, go. Now we can track him, and now he might be taken out. Okay, so so yeah, there you go. Alright, so with the help of the Object 257, we could actually hold the flank, and now it's 10-7. looks like the advance of our team was not too successful. And I think, okay, now the T95 needs support because he is on his own and he can even be flanked with a tank like the Skoda T56. So it is our task to now help this tank and make sure that he does not get flanked, so that we maintain this flank. Right, flank him, but we can take him out. Excellent. Okay, so a very short game, but I wanted to show this game to you to simply show you the capabilities of such a tank. In my opinion, this tank is made for playing aggressively and not for spending your time at the red line and just camping. So what you should keep in mind is you should always try to analyze the penetration capabilities of your opponents and then the effectiveness of your armor. Plus, you should make sure to never be alone on a flank, because then you will get circled. And if you see a tank like the T95, you have to help him, because just like the T95 on tier 9, this tank has an insanely good firepower on tier 8. But you want to make sure that you always help this tank. And you as a T28 player, you never want to be alone on a flank, because you can easily get circled, get flanked, and get taken out. But yeah, so far we had to kind of make an assessment at the beginning of the game, and now I want to show you how godlike the armor of this tank is if you're fighting against tier 7 or even tier 6 tanks. So, third and last game in the T28, and this time we are spawning on Live Oaks in a tier 6 matchup. But first of all, let's take a look at the map. Spawning on Live Oaks in the south, the situation usually looks like this, and with a heavily armored tank destroyer, you could go to the, let's say, traditional tank destroyer positions, which are right here. But in my opinion, this gameplay is much too passive. So instead, I would advance with my medium/heavy tanks right here in order to win the southern flank, or the city right here in order to win the city, depending on the situation. So I could go to the city, but I want to go to the south in order to win the southern flank, because I think it is more important in order to win the game. So let's see. Obviously the armor profile is godlike in this kind of scenario, so I want to play as aggressively as I physically can. But hey, what is that? So as you can see, we have no support whatsoever. Yeah, okay. So only one tank, only the public tank is going to the south. So we certainly do not want to go to the south, because, as I said, never ever go on a flank on your own. This applies for every tank in World of Tanks, but especially for a turretless tank destroyer, because you can easily get tracked, flanked, and then circled, and then taken out by any other tank, even by tier 6 tanks. So that's what you certainly want to, you certainly not want to do, don't want to do. So yeah, too bad. Well, that's how it is. So we have to go to the city now. We will certainly arrive there like 3 or 4 minutes into the game. However, now we need to play as aggressively as we physically can. So just press the W key. Actually, I will keep pressing it down and try to go to the city as fast as possible. Now, keep in mind, I will go this way so that I'm kind of protected from tank destroyers, which is sitting right here, because the ground here is a little bit lower than actually this little, road here. So do you see this? So move behind this small little ridge line here to not get shot by the enemy. So right now it looks like we are losing the city, but I think as soon as I arrive in the city, I can make the difference, and I will make the difference. Now, so far the T28 prototype and the UDES have not been spotted, and I think this is a catastrophic misplay by the T28 prototype, because he should also be very aggressively as he is in a top tier scenario with the strong armor. So yep, we only get tracked, and now it is time to take out the Su-152 because he is a strong opponent. Now, let's see. Okay, he's taken out. Nice. And as you can see, with our help, we could actually turn around the game already in the city. So, looks like the enemy is also not progressing in the south, which is great. Now we want to play as aggressively as we can. Now, I don't worry too much about the Leo. Oh, nice. One shot into the lower hull of the Löwe. And now we just want to keep moving forward. Nothing else what we can do. And then repair the gun and destroy the Löwe. No, not a problem at all. And I know, you know what? I will not spend the other repair kit. I'll simply just wait. Nice. And now it is time, yep, to take out the 100MY. Okay, get a shot from the Judas, but I don't care. I simply want to make pressure towards the KV2 and just take out this tank. Oh, get a shot. Yep, here we go. We can even track him. Nice. And he does have no chance of penetrating us. And he's taken out. Yeah, perfect. So, 1900 damage, 2500 damage blocked. And we still just want to keep moving forward because that's just our task in a tier 6 game. So what you should keep in mind is that in such a slow tank, you have to kind of lead your decisions. So you don't have the time to sit, let's say, in the second row or sit in the back of the map and be the last one who is advancing, because as you are the slowest tank, every other tank will overtake you and you will not be able to get any damage. So instead you have to make an aggressive gameplay early on in the game. This is extremely important in this tank. So as we are a very slow tank, we will certainly not get any damage on those tanks here. And so, you know what, I think we need to go to the cap circle and actually cap. Oh, maybe we can get some shots on the T28. So yeah, this was the incorrect gameplay of this guy here, playing defensively here. No, he should have supported his guys in the city, and if he had done so, he might have turned around the favor in the city early enough before we could actually arrive in the city. But this is actually a good example. So in such a tank, you need to play aggressively as soon as conditions permit, and obviously in a tier 6 game, you can play aggressively right from the get-go. Can we get another shot on the T28 prototype? Let's see. I don't think so. Yep, he's taken out. And yeah, you know what? So that's it for this game. 2372 damage. In a tier 6 game, we could have maybe received more damage or made more damage if we had gone to the city right away, but that's just how it is. The important thing is we did not go on a flank on our own. This is important, and then what you have to do is you have to play aggressively in such a tank as soon as conditions permit. So yeah, with this we made 2300 damage, and I think you now got an impression on how to play a tank like the T28. Alright guys, that was it for today with the T28. Do you like this tank? And do you like this kind of tank class? Just leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Consider subscribing to my channel, and I see you next time in another World of Tanks video.